Is this turned on? Hi, and welcome to Rick Fry in Real Time. We're continuing our interview with Randy Jones, a wildlife photographer. When I talked to Randy before, the last thing we talked about in episode 1 was how you really enjoy having kids coming into your booth, and you get to all of a sudden be a teacher.
Yeah.
Talk about that experience.
I think that may be, although I do it to make a living or try to make a living, I think that may be one of the most fun and rewarding aspects of doing shows. I have young couples come in with kids, and sometimes you see the kids, their eyeballs get, gigantic. You can tell they're just, wow, they're in awe.
Yep.
And they wander around and they're looking at everything. They want to go through all of the file or all the photos in my folders. And sometimes they ask questions, usually they don't. And that's so encouraging, and it gives me an opportunity when they pull a photo out and they're looking at it and showing it to their parents. I can talk about the photo a little bit, and give them a little bit of information that they probably didn't know, and that's really a blessing. And there's a number of times the child wanted something and the parents couldn't afford it or wasn't going to spend the money on it, and I just give them the photo. I mean, it's a little 8 by 10 or 12 by 16. I just give it to them, and that's very rewarding.
That's pretty gratifying. You're right. It's very gratifying. And the point of this is that I know you well enough to know that you think you're not a teacher.
No.
Yeah. But in that moment, you're teaching several things. You're being an example of Christ by embracing these kids, talking to them, and ultimately giving them a part of you.
Yeah.
That is huge. That is, as believers, we get to give what we have received. We get to share what we have received.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important part of what we do in the arts.
Yeah.
Is that, yes, we have visions of what we want on paper or on canvas, and we share those visions. We share what we see. We share the technical part of what we do, and then we sometimes get to give it away.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge. I want to move on we touched on this earlier. Your maybe first love or equal to is serving at your church. And one of the things you get to do at your church is run sound. And I think maybe we touched on this in the first interview, but I want to go back to that and talk about how all that happened, how you became involved in improving the sound of a church, giving it excellence.
Well, yeah. If we go back beyond before I got involved with the church,
Let's do that.
I made a good living as a drug dealer as a young person in my 20s. And I could afford a nice stereo. And I developed a love for music and the ability to play music at a quality level. I had a very expensive stereo. I had, just all the bells and whistles. And I developed a good ear during that time, I'm guessing.
Yep.
And it's kind of funny how God uses us, even in our low spots sometimes, to improve us for the future. But anyway, I met my wife, And one of the,
Where did you meet her?
I actually met her at a studio where they taught, I believe, Taekwondo.
Really?
Jay, my son, was wanting to do it, and she had her children in it, and we sat next to each other and talked during that time, and I really enjoyed her company, and we ended up dating. And now I've forgotten what we were talking about.
Well, you just told me something I didn't know. I didn't know you had another son,
Yeah, yeah.
Jay.
Yeah, he's only a son in name. I haven't seen him in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I haven't seen him in, I don't know, 25 years or more.
Wow.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but that's the way life is.
Yeah, it is. That's true.
But where did we want to go with
Well,
this?
we were talking about developing your ear for sound.
Okay, well, I started dating her. I started going to church because it was easy to see her that way. And I started learning some things, attending, listening. And at that period of time with that church, they struggled with sound issues. They had feedback on a regular basis. And it was distracting, to say the least.
Yes.
It's really hard to worship when you're distracted by things outside of worship.
Yeah.
And so at one point, I sat down with the pastor at the church, and I just came out and said, there seems to be a lot of issues with sound quality, and is there something we have planned or you have planned to kind of help correct that? And he just looked at me and smiled and says, okay, what is it you're wanting to do? And that kind of took me back a little bit because I wasn't volunteering to help. I just wanted to complain. So that kind of changed everything.
Yeah.
So I committed to becoming involved and try to help find solutions to the problems. They ended up sending me to a number of worship workshops where I was tutored by people that did sound for a living and also did it at churches. And that was really instrumental. It changed my thought process and how I looked at sound. And it immediately had...
How you looked at sound?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an interesting phrase.
Okay. Sound is...
No, it's exactly right.
It's complex. And you have to... I'm not sure what to say.
Well, you have to be able to see different ways to approach it.
Yeah.
You're looking at a soundboard and you're listening through headphones. And if you're not, this so ties into the whole art thing. If you're not willing to go outside the box, to think outside the box for the stuff like what you do, then you're going to produce the same stuff, crap, that they were producing, but you were willing to go outside the box and look at it from a different perspective.
And I think when I look at people that have been involved with sound for a while, they lose their preconceived ideas of how it should be done.
Right.
And they look at how they can best use their talents to improve what's being done.
Because you not only have to adjust the microphones, you have to know the room. You have to know the echo and the reverb that is created in a big room. So you have to adjust for all those. I don't know the technical term. It's equalize or gain or all of those terms that come with adjusting sound. But you have to have an ear to hear, and then there's some technical stuff with how to adjust it.
Yeah, you basically need to spread out frequencies over the spectrum
There you
where
go.
you don't overload any certain frequency.
Yes.
And that's what feedback does.
Yeah. It overloads the frequency.
Yeah, yeah.
So you have a good ear. and you can't teach that.
No,
You
no.
can't-
I was told that by two different people that were instructing me. That they said, you've got an ear, and I can teach you some things. And I can't teach people that don't have ears.
You can teach the technical part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like equalizing the sound, spreading out the sound waves, or whatever they're called. And that's all technical, but to hear it is like a gift. The same thing is true with your work as a photographer, is that you also have an eye. And you can't teach that.
Yeah.
You can get a camera, you can learn about the camera, but if you can't compose through that viewfinder, then you're just shooting pictures.
Yeah.
What you do, because of your eyes, you create art with that camera as your tool. And the Wichita Wildlife as your canvas.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think and all of this comes from commitment. You know, my whole adult life, I wanted to be an artist. That's all I wanted to do. And it's not an easy career because there's a lot of time when you're not earning money,
Man.
when you're creating work. And I don't know if I said this in the first interview or not, but people are judging you because you're not me. I say judging us because we're spending time doing something that doesn't appear to be productive. So it takes a commitment to and a wife that understands, but it takes a commitment to a lifestyle that sometimes you're not going to make the money.
No. If I made the mistake earlier on in setting down and figuring out what I was spending, what I was bringing in.
Early on,
Yeah. And then trying to give it a per hour wage per se. And when you're dumb enough to do that,
Yeah, you're going broke.
You're going broke, and it's not good for your mental stability.
Yeah, and that's where the commitment part comes in. And you said this in the first interview. There were times when you said, "I just can't keep doing this."
Yeah, it just, if it had been up to me, I would have quit 6 or 7 years ago.
Well, you would have quit for a while, but once you do this, you can't quit.
Yeah.
You just sometimes you put it on pause for a while and you rethink, and then you go, "What if?" That is the question we have. What if I do this? Will it make it work? And then you get energized. And for me, I start stretching canvas and I start putting paint on a surface.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to recapture the emotion that got me into this.
And the instrumental part of it was Nina just always having my back and always encouraging me and saying, you can't.
That's
you can't
huge.
quit.
That's
You got to do it. You got to go. Well, you're all in.
And then you have to be willing to practice. You have to be willing to put in the time.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to be bad at it.
Oh, man. And I was very good at being bad. Early on.
I
Wow.
was very good at being bad. That's really bad. Well said. I want to go back to your church involvement. You are at New Life Church in Norman.
It's Life Spring Church.
Life Spring. Where did
Yeah,
I get
Life
New
Spring.
Life?
Well, I can be there if you want me to be.
No, I don't care where you go. But Life Spring Church. What led you to Life Spring Church?
Well, there was a period of time where doing sound was kind of taken away from me because of circumstances, and it was very difficult to deal with for a period of time. And we were looking for a church I could go to comfortably and not find myself sitting in my chair going, that's not appealing to my ear, what I'm hearing. And being distracted by that. Well, Life Spring, when we started attending, they had a service that was held in their bar area where they have donuts and coffee.
Okay, I'm
and
glad you
things of
clarified
nature.
that.
Yeah, yeah, we didn't really sit up in bars, no. But
They had
anyway,
bar stools.
bar stools. Well, actually, we sat in chairs. The
Oh,
pastor
okay.
sat in a bar stool
Okay.
while he was speaking. But there was an acoustic piano in there and one or two singers, and they would do a worship set, and then the pastor would speak there in the room. Nothing was amplified. There were no speakers, no mics, and that was just really kind of a very special. It was one on one. It meant a lot to me, and we really enjoyed it.
Wow.
And then over time, they felt like they needed to go to 2 full services where it was amplified and they had sound, where they had speakers.
Because the church was growing in
Yes,
attendees, yeah.
yeah. And so we transitioned into that. And when we did, I got involved with sound. I asked if I could help.
And they were probably eager to have you.
Well, I think so.
You can say, yeah, they were.
Yeah, they were.
So, okay. So you enjoyed your first experience with them because of the intimacy of that small setting.
Yeah.
And then you saw the growth, and then you saw a need to help the sound because of the number of people changes the way the room sounds.
Yeah.
So what else kept you? I mean, doing the sound is way enough, but what else was there about that church that was attractive to you? And I ask this question because many people are looking for a place. There's a lot of mega churches, a lot of big churches, and when you get into a big church, you lose that intimacy. And I don't know what the size of your church is, but it sounds like it's still relatively small enough where you can know who you're doing sound for.
Yes.
I hope that makes
I
sense.
think, yes, it does. For me and Nina, it's the feeling of unconditional love. It's more of a family than my true family, my blood family, to be honest.
Tell me about that. Why?
You can just feel from the messages, from the people that you interact with everything going on there, that there is a love for one another, and
that's so good.
there is a passion to spread the word, to draw people to Christ. It just makes it a very special place. I love the place. More so than I did when we first started going.
So that has become family for you.
It is. It's. I think when you call it church family, maybe you demean it a little bit. I mean, it's family.
Yeah. So I'm putting together stuff, and you correct me if I'm wrong. So you made a commitment to this body of believers, and your commitment was to take the sound and set you apart from ordinary. That's huge for me. Becoming not ordinary is a death to me. I don't want to be an ordinary artist. I don't want to be a good interviewer. I want to be great at this. And I'm not there yet, but it's always it just keeps me going because I see improvement, but I have this goal to be the best I can be at this, and not be in the military. But I see that in you, that you can't be satisfied with ordinary. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm very hard on myself in everything I do. I can be very critical
Oh yeah.
on everything I do.
That's just a part of it. Yeah.
And the aspect of sound, at least for me, is taking what I hear in the room and sharing it with others. Based on my experiences, I guess. And things change. The
only-
way I do sound has changed over the years.
Not
Even
only-
it's different from this
Yeah,
year
sorry.
than it was last year.
Yeah.
I mean, those people on stage, whether they're singers, musicians, they pour their soul into that. They work so hard, and it's behind the scenes. People don't. The body of Christ doesn't really see the effort and the time that people on stage producing worship for the congregation. They have no idea what's going on. It's not easy, and they deserve my best. They really do.
So you've taken, I'm going to go back a few sentences. You've taken an experience and made it an opportunity to serve.
Yes, I'm an introvert. I'm not wild about crowds. I don't do well in crowds. And the AVL booth is like my little hiding place. There may be hundreds of people sitting in front of me, but it's like the only time I really experience them being there is when the band is knocking it out of the park. I've got a good mix, and I can hear the people in front of me singing almost as loud as what I'm doing with the sound on stage through the speakers. That gives me goosebumps.
So, and I think we've already done this, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. What connects the two, church and photography? And you've already said it, but let's say it again, because I think it's important to make that connection.
Well, we've been told to do everything to the best of our ability. I mean, and there's no such thing as small things, you know, when it comes to your service or your sacrifice or Christ's sacrifice and what you want to do to help grow the body of Christ.
Yes. What you want to do to help spread the good news.
And see, I'm not an evangelist. I'm not per se. I am not gifted with words. I struggle sometimes communicating. And my ability to communicate, so to speak, the sound in the room
Yes.
to help bring people into a state of worship or an experience of worship is a lot of fun. When I look down at the crowd and I see people doing this and they're swaying back and forth, and then I can hear them singing, that's a great reward for me.
And I would say that that's God speaking to you, saying, well done. Yep. So what's next for Randy?
Well, I'm getting to be an old fart. I'm really not sure. I want to continue to.
Have you seen what's the movie? Matrix, where Leo is one of the guys has Leo in a headlock, and then there's a train coming, and he says, "That, Mr. Smith or whatever, is the sound of inevitability." It's inevitable that you're going to become an old fart.
Yeah. And just that I really pray that I can do a sound as long as I can and do it well.
Yeah.
At my age, that's kind of a stretch, but they're happy with me.
Yeah.
I think. I do a
You're
pretty
still doing
decent
it,
job.
yeah.
I'm still doing it.
Yeah,
So
you're delaying your trip to Texas
yeah, that was
because they
interesting.
ask you to. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, get better at that. Continue to grow. Continue to experience and learn what God wants for me, what
Yes.
Christ wants for me. It's all about what He wants. You know, that aspect of yes, Lord, send me. You know, and I don't know where He wants to send me. I don't know what He wants me to do, but as long as I'm in there plugging.
Yeah. This statement may sound a bit self-serving, but it takes a lot of courage to do what we're doing without having a regular 9 to 5 job. It takes courage to do that. And I just can't imagine doing anything else. It's inconceivable to think of retiring and sitting at home and doing nothing. I will never retire.
Yeah.
I may drop dead in this chair right here,
Yeah.
but I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be the best I can at it. When you went into photography, did you set goals for yourself?
Yes, I did. The first goal was I would never use the automatic settings on the camera. I would use manual. I would learn how to use light, how to use aperture, how to use speed, how to combine those three things to get the best possible picture I could get. And I don't know if I touched on it earlier. I really did a horrible job at that for like 6 months. It was very depressing.
I would have been really angry if you had been really, really good at it right off.
Well, isn't that the way it's supposed to be? I mean, you watch television and they solve everything in 30 minutes.
Yeah, or
know?
seconds.
Yeah.
And so, okay, what a great goal, to learn your tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's what the camera is a tool. Mm-hmm. And you have to know how to use that tool.
And there's an aspect of it of wanting the camera to see what I see.
Mm-hmm.
And to make those settings in the camera to produce as close as possible what I wanted
Yep.
in the photo.
Yep.
And then go to post, work to tweak it a little.
That's right. Because that's so hard. It's so hard to put on a surface what you see in your head.
Yeah. And for 6 months, it was depressing. I would come home and I would have 500 or 600 photos on my camera. I would download them and I would look at them, in detail. And I would end up deleting the whole folders, every folder that I shot, just because there was nothing there I felt deserved to be worked on.
Yeah.
And, I went through that for 6 months. It was very depressing. And then one morning, for some reason, something clicked. Mm-hmm. And that didn't mean that it was instantaneously better. It just meant that I grasped something.
Right.
And it made sense to me. And I took that and ran with it and steadily started getting better.
So you're going to continue to do sound as long as they'll let you.
Yep.
And you're going to continue to shoot pictures as long as you have the strength to go out and do it.
As long as I can carry that dadgum lens around.
It's a big lens. I'm going to wrap this up. I have a deep appreciation for what you do. Now I interview a lot of guys, and I appreciate them all. Some more than others, but because of our connection with the arts, I have a really deep appreciation for what you have accomplished, and actually in a relatively short period of time. Because you've only been doing this about 15 years, 20 years?
I got serious in 2009.
Yeah.
So yeah, the end of 2009.
Yeah, because I was at the Performing Arts Studio in probably 10 or 11. Mm-hmm. And that's when we did your first show there. Now you had done other shows, I'm sure, before then, but
yeah.
that was pretty impressive.
I didn't have that many things printed then, and I didn't have frames. It was a pretty awkward situation.
We put them all together there in that big room in the Performing Arts Studio with those clips that you put on the corner and the backing. I had a piece of plexiglass, clips, and backing.
Yeah.
But it was a good show. Thank you, Randy, for taking your time to drive up here to Norman to do this final episode.
I appreciate it. It was fun.
It is fun. And thank you for taking your time to listen to us and to watch us. And I just look forward to seeing you next time.